Hi, this is Jim from Vaud Visuals. I'm here with Joel Jeske, whose new show is coming to New York, world premiere, opening March 7th. And let's hear about it, Joel.
Well, it's going March 7th to the 29th. So it's the whole month of March. It's going to be at the ART New York Theaters at 502 West 53rd Street. And it's produced by Parallel Exit, my physical theater company. And it is called The Artist Will Be With You in a Moment. That was the second title. The first title was The Artist Will Be... Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm not quite ready. I'll be right back. Just sit tight for a second. I'm almost there. Almost. Wait. Just give me a minute. I'm almost got it. I think maybe. Oh, wait. No. There's this. Has anyone seen that thing? It was right here for a minute. I need it for the... You got it? Do you? Do you have that thing? Do we? Oh, here. Well, what's it doing here? That's not a... okay. All right, I got it. We're good. That was the original title. But that was a little long.
A little long.
So we cut it down to The Artist Will Be With You in a Moment.
That's much more appropriate.
It's concise.
Yeah, well,
even it is a little lengthy, but it's a little more concise
So
than what we
is,
really...
this is a different take on a clown show, a solo clown show than most people would expect. And can you tell us about that?
Well, the thing is that it's really ultimately by far the most personal thing that I've done, because what I've really done is I've reached that point. All clowns reach that point when they're roughly around 50, where they kind of reevaluate everything they've been doing. And so I looked at where my life and where my career and where everything I've done and everything I hope to do stands at this moment. And I realized that what I really wanted people to understand and what I wanted people to experience is my creative mind. And so that's one of the reasons why the show is an immersive comic solo performance. Because I want you to be, you are as the audience, part of my comic creative process. And so because so much of what I've done and so much of the way, so much of how I've created material and how I've performed in the past has always been informed by art. I've always been a tremendous student and researcher of art, as well as creator of art. And so what I've done is, in terms of this show, I haven't limited myself to any one medium. In other words, there will be live performance, there will be video, there is conceptual sculpture, there is photography, there's what you ultimately experience is that you are in the midst of an art gallery, and it is my work on display and at the same time a live performance, and that you are yourself encouraged to creatively indulge yourself and creatively get involved in what's going on.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So it's very different than your standard clown show.
Well, because the thing is, I will say this, is that it does address like I said, it does address very personal things. It addresses, my age. It addresses my sexuality. It addresses, where I am in my life in relation to everything so far, my life story, as it were. But what it does is, rather than telling you what I am or who I am, I address it through how I create. So in other words, I could simply tell you that I'm a 50-something gay man living in New York, balding. You don't know I'm balding because I'm wearing a hat right now. But what I've done is, rather than tell you what and who I am, I've decided to show you. And by showing you, I encourage you at the same time to show me and show yourself your own creative process.
Lovely. Sounds like a very different take on a personal solo show.
Well, it's it's not that I really had that desire to mix it up, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, what's going to basically put the point across the best? In other words, I mean, you know, Jim, through your photography, that you could describe a situation or you can simply show us a picture. I've never really been a joke teller. And so rather than trying to be witty, I've decided to act it out. And so there's a lot of the inspiration I draw for my material, and a lot of how I find my inspiration is directly addressed in this.
So let's go back a few years.
Okay.
To your time at Ringling Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
You were on tour with their show.
Mm-hmm.
And you performed, and what was your character's name?
Well, on Ringling Brothers, I mean, we ultimately go by our own names. So I was Joel Jeske. But the thing is that in Ringling, what I found, and it was a wonderful place to experiment due to the size of the show, that there was that first time when I first got out there, I tried to outrun everything. I tried to give, 110%, and there I was, giving it my all. And the thing is I found that even though I was giving an incredible amount of energy, it wasn't ultimately serving the show the best. And it wasn't serving me as a clown performer in how much I could relate and connect with the audience. So I would experiment. I would try different speeds. I would go too fast. I would go too slow. I would try to go right with the show. And eventually I kind of created this white-faced character who was a little pissy. He was a little annoyed, which served me in working with the other Augustes, because ultimately I could drive the clown gag. I gave them a solid, quote-unquote, straight man partner to bounce off of. And at the same time, finding my own laughs in the circus in getting people to relate to my frustration. I think that's the thing that I really took away from that clown time on Ringling Brothers, is how do you as a clown get people to relate to you by identifying with you and empathizing with you. And I found to me, even now, I'm finding across the board among all clowns is that that's a tremendous concern, is that, how do we get the empathy out of the audience? How do we get the audience to either see themselves in us or see something in us that they then can relate to?
And then in the last several years, you've had quite a few years performing with the Big Apple Circus.
Yes.
And let's hear a little bit about that experience.
Well, whereas Ringling was a time of experimenting with who I was, where in moving to Big Apple Circus, it was a time to experiment with how I then relate to people, and how, because it's a very different beast. Even though it's still a circus, it's very there's a much greater focus in Big Apple Circus on the individual performer, and it is required of that individual performer, especially in the Big Apple Circus, to reach out and connect with the audience. And that's primarily, in my opinion, what the clowns of Big Apple Circus do. Is they are the heart. They are the connection with the audience. They are the ones who invite the audience into the ring. Now, the same was true for Ringling, but one of the delights, one of the wonders of Ringling is the sheer size and spectacle of it all. Whereas Big Apple Circus, you could get a tremendous laugh by cocking an eyebrow, by holding a look to somebody in the audience, by interacting with a child who happens to feel a certain sense of freedom in the ring, and you just let them enjoy. So there was that very much that personal sense of celebration, a personal sense of joy that allowed me to, based on what I'd learned through Ringling Brothers in terms of grounding who I was, then taking that and using that to connect with the audience in Big Apple. So at the same time, that's where you find that ability to lead the audience, and at the same time, that's you can find encouragement. At the same time, you can find how to lead them, and at the same time, you find how you can celebrate your relationship with them. So a lot of those things have been carried into the solo show, in the sense of encouraging everybody to acknowledge who they are, to embrace. I talk about art is accident, because when you look at some of the greatest works of art, a painter is constantly, and Bob Ross will tell you this, a painter is constantly incorporating the mistakes. So is a sculptor. It's like nothing is done, perfectly at the first time. And so that constant adapting and that constantly evolving of an artwork, it's almost like it's the sum total of all its imperfections. And I find that a beautiful metaphor for a clown, because that's what a clown is the sum total of all its human imperfections. And so one of the aspects, what I say conundrums of the show, is that I, Joel Jeske, portray Joel Jeske portraying Joel Jeske. So I, as Joel Jeske, the person or the performer, are portraying Joel Jeske, the artist, who is hence portraying Joel Jeske, the character. So what you see me performing in the show is actually myself artistically distilled almost to a metaphor. Does that sound brainy or what?
It sounds lovely.
And so, but at the same time, and if for the theater nerds out there, there's that Brechtian ideal of the 3 levels of character. So at any point in the show, I'm the character. At the same time, I'm the artist. At the same time, I'm myself. And I can jump from any one of those levels depending on what is required, either through the routine I'm doing, through the work we're creating, or improvisationally how I'm dealing with the audience.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you very much, Joel. I appreciate it.
Thank you.